Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss the American Chemical Corporation. This is the final case study as part of Finance 139 class. This will be presented to Dr. Shiroki and presented by analyst Jonathan Lopez. So today we're going to firstly discuss an introduction. We're going to discuss past performances of these companies, competitive environment, relevered beta, we'll get into that a little bit more, estimation of WACC's cost of equity and cost of debt, projected incremental cash flows for an acquisition, projected incremental cash flows for technology acquisition, recommendation, strategic issues, a range of value, and then finally wrap it up with a conclusion. Firstly, we're going to talk about past performance. And when discussing past performance, we look directly at ACC, which is the American Chemical Corporation. And what we do firstly is that we say that the past performance of American Chemical Corporation was profitable. ACC had above average sales, they had steadily increasing assets and high operating margin as compared to other chemical companies with a similar market capitalization. However, ACC did experience a temporary drop in net income, which has also caused a decline to their EPS. They did recover both its net income and EPS in 1978, however, rising to $349 million and $8.20 respectively. Collinsworth plant was also profitable, with over $4.8 million in operating profits in 1978 alone. The Collinsville plant is expected to reach its market capitalization by 1982. One negative aspect of the Collinsville plant, however, was its high energy costs, and these energy costs accounted for over 55% of all manufacturing costs for the plant. This is obviously too high, but its past performance is actually not too bad. They're doing pretty well. And now that we understand that the performance of these companies, ACC and Collinsville, are actually doing pretty well, or I should say the plant is doing pretty well, what's the competitive environment like? What's it like in Collinsville? As you can see from the picture, that's a picture of Hong Kong, a very competitive area. So we want to know what the competitive environment of ACC and Collinsville plant is. And it's almost entirely decided by paper and the pulp industry, with 85% of all sodium chlorate produced being utilized by that industry. And sales of sodium chlorate are expected to grow at a rapid rate, with an expected increase of over 95% from 1970 to 1979. And this is another positive sign of the environment of ACC, seeing that their sales have increased previously for the 9 straight years, and they're really expected to grow or continue growing at a rate of 8 to 10%. So the market was dominated by 3 large producers, to speak more about the environment, which account for over 55% of domestic capacity. In addition to existing users, or existing producers, I should say, in the industry, being Union Chemicals and Louisiana Paper Company. And they're also expected to enter the sodium chloride market. So at this time, in 1970 to 79, you're seeing a lot of growth in this area, a lot of people trying to get into this industry. So there's a lot of possibility to have some negative aspects, seeing that there could be some erosion of share value or market capitalization. Now that we understand the environment and there's a lot of players in this industry, we're going to try to discuss beta a little bit. And beta is seen as your risk against the market. So if the market is saying that your beta is 1, you are essentially as risky as the market that you're entered in. So what we did is we decided to unlever 2 different companies in the same industry. One's Brunswick and the other is Southern Chemical. And they both had 1.0152 and 1.0551 respectively for their betas. Then you go to a simple average beta, which will provide an industry beta. And this was seen to be 1.0352. And then very shortly after, to get beta levered or a relevered beta, what you're going to do is you're going to do that average of betas unlevered times 1 plus the debt to equity ratio. And that will give you a relevered beta, which we derive to be 1.5926. Now that we've calculated relevered beta using industry beta and also peers in the same marketplace, we can also, or next I should say, calculate the cost of equity. And the cost of equity for the Collinsville plant is 21.44%. The cost of equity was calculated by using the capital asset pricing model, also referred to as CAPM. CAPM's equation is the risk-free rate plus beta times the return of the market. The calculation in this case was 0.095 as the risk-free rate plus the beta we got when we relevered, which was 1.59, times 0.075, which is going to be our return of the market. This gave us a 21.44% cost of equity. So next we're going to decide our estimation of WACC, and the appropriate weights of Dixon is 35% debt and 65% equity. So WACC is then calculated using the formula: the cost of WACC is equal to debt times the cost of debt times 1 minus the tax rate plus equity times the cost of equity. So the WACC in this instance is going to be 15.99%, or simply rounded up, it's 16% weighted average cost of capital. Now that we have a better understanding of beta as well as of the weighted average cost of capital, CAPM, or the cost of equity, we're next going to decide what is the net present value or the incremental cash flows associated with the acquisition of the Collinsville plant. And this is going to be without the laminate technology, so this is without anything extra. This is just purely the Collinsville plant. And the projected incremental cash flows associated with the acquisition of the Collinsville plant without the laminate is calculated in two approaches. The first terminal value approach that you see on the screen was calculated under the assumption that assets would be sold at book value at year 5. This approach calculated the NPV of the acquisition to be $1,928.18. And these are all in thousands once again, so you could round those up, add your 3 zeros at the end, but I'm going to do it in thousands, so 1928.18. And the second terminal value approach was calculated under the assumption that the plant will be scrapped when it reaches a zero salvage value. This approach calculated the NPV to be $1,425. Again, this is in thousands. Both of these terminal values were calculated with the assumptions built into the model, which the capital expenditures would remain constant at about $600 per year, depreciation would increase by around 4% per year, and operating profits after tax would increase by 7% per year. Now that we've discussed the terminal values approach 1 and 2, including the Collinsville plant without laminate technology, let's take a look at what it's like with laminate technology. So firstly, we see cash flows being at $5,176.08. The way we did this, you could see the appendix for the calculations, but we just added the PV, or the present value of incremental cash flows down, and we get the number there. Again, you do the exact same thing for the second approach, or the NPV of the laminate technology, and this is used as summing up column C of the same table that you'll find in the appendix. And the cash flows we're calculating by adding the present value of the total free cash flows after the power and graphite savings had been implemented. So this is after the savings had occurred. And then what you see is you see the acquisitions NPV with that laminate technology being calculated, being to $4,291.08. And again, these are all in thousands. But again, very positive, high NPV, definitely should undertake the project. Now that we've understood the NPV and the terminal value approaches presented, what range of value would you estimate the Collinsville plant? And that's kind of our next question is the Collinsville proposal attractive, even on economic grounds? And assessing the value estimate of Collinsville plant is done by computing, in this case, it was done by computing liquidation to book value, payback period of the project, and the NPV of the overall project. So doing the liquidation to book value, we see the Collinsville plant is estimated to be within the $4 million to $6 million range. Payback period, with over $1 million in free cash flow over each of the first 2 years, the payback period for the purchase of the plant should be around 3 years. It's very quickly to pay back the project. And then the net present value of the Collinsville plant is seen to be $1489.29. So the Collinsville plant looks to be a good investment for the company, even though the purchase of the plant leads to a negative NPV. I should have said that purchasing the Collinsville plant, that was a negative $1489.29. But by undertaking the laminate project, the company will again come out on top with a positive NPV. So the Collinsville plant would be a good value anywhere from $4 million to $6 million based on the liquidation to book value calculations. But it's my recommendation, if you're going to acquire the Collinsville plant, you must take on the laminate project as well. The laminate project is where the money is. Collinsville might be your bread and butter, but you got to kind of reach outside the box and get that laminate technology, and it'll be well worth the acquisition. And then also, since Dixon already has related business units, it seems smart for their company to continue to grow inside and outside the company. So they can grow inside by producing larger quantities and grow outside by acquiring companies and producing more diversified products. Dixon will continue to thrive in their sector and really should have no problems meeting all of its financial obligations concerning the new investments. And in this case, American Chemical Corporation will be a profitable gain for the Dixon Corporation. Based solely on strategy, the next question is Collinsville attractive on strategic grounds? And really, selling the Collinsville plant is attractive on strategic grounds because it allows Dixon to acquire a plant that has a positive NPV, and then the tender of the Collinsville plant is also attractive for ACC because it then allows them to purchase Universal Paper Company, which would greatly increase their market capitalization and strengthen their presence in the sodium chlorate business. So what it would do, the acquisition would essentially build them up larger than they've ever been before and really make a name for them in this paper business, in this chemical company as well. And then continuing on, as an independent consultant, my recommendation to the Dixon Corporation's management would be to highly recommend Dixon to invest in both the acquisition of the Collinsville plant and to invest in the new laminate technology. The acquisition will be backed as a good investment because of the positive NPV of over $4 million of the plant with this technology. So definitely acquire both of them. And then also, can Dixon meet its financial obligations if proposed financing plan is accepted? And yes, assuming Dixon is able to invest in the new laminate technology, it will definitely be able to meet its financial obligations for the purchase. However, if Dixon does not implement the laminate technology, I don't believe they'll be able to meet its financial obligations, seeing as the NPV of the project then becomes negative. So once again, I strongly recommend undertaking both projects. If you're going to undertake any of them, take on both of them. And then in conclusion, we've discussed a number of things, firstly from betas all the way to cost of equity, weighted average cost of capital, some of these incremental cash flows, both with undertaking the project of laminate technology and not undertaking the project with laminate technology, some of the strategic risks, my recommendation of undertaking both of them, and above all else, on economic grounds, it does sound like a pretty feasible project given the liquidation to book value as well as the payback period and the positive NPV, assuming that both projects are undertaken. Keep in mind that the net present value of the Collinsville plant is actually negative without it, so you definitely want to take on both. So again, I firmly believe in undertaking both projects, and thank you very much for watching.